Did the woke DEI era actually destroy an entire generation of young men?
Half a generation, at least.
Its quota system? And did boomers make a ton of money off of it while destroying the myths, the legends, and the heroes we love and entertain?
The thing is, you had half a decade where, as a masculine man, hard to get any work in Hollywood. And so you now don't have any seasoned male actors to work with. A dearth of them, at least.
Entertainment? Well, of course they did. And we'll tell you how right now. Hello, folks. Welcome back and happy. And we still say Merry Christmas even though it's past. Some of you are still
That's just so stupid.
celebrating out there. Some of you never did. But guess what, folks? The festivities continue on as we roll towards a...
As a kid, I was living in Europe, but I went over to the United States and I loved comics and I loved Spider-Man and all the others. But the one that I never got was Captain America, because running around in an American flag, it just seems so cringe. He was the one hero that always struck me as cringe. But watching the MCU and his origin in World War II, and this out of place, a blast from the past type hero, that actually made it make sense. He's a product of his time. But for Falcon, for a modern man to go around in wearing a flag like that, it becomes cringe again. It is so cringe.
A new
Bucky could have worked. He was also out of time, but no one else.
year. So, Merry Christmas to one and all. Welcome to the channel where we heed the call for understanding entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve. DEI might have destroyed
He did Harrison Ford dirty in Star Wars.
an entire generation of men, but it's not too late to save the day. We've got the info. We'll bring it your way right now. This one's out of the New York Post. DEI hollowed out a generation and sapped America's promise by Glenn H. Reynolds. Here's what it has to say.
Yep.
The wholesale adoption of diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology in almost all of our major institutions has done untold damage to American society. It was advertised as something noble, a way to open opportunities for women and minorities who had been...
Anyone who believed they could work hard and get somewhere in life, there was a man, suddenly finds out that even if you work hard, they're going to give the job to a minority or a woman that's lazy and has blue hair, and it's hard work is not rewarded. It betrays the American dream.
unfairly denied them, but through a combination of bureaucratic laziness.
Reason I published my book on Royal Road instead of trying to find the publisher is because when I looked at publishers, all of them were looking for diverse stories by diverse artists. They're basically saying, we don't want stories from white people. That's the reason I did try to look for a publisher.
And political malice, DEI soon became something approaching a ban on hiring millennial white males at the beginning of their careers. The harm goes far beyond the wreckage it posed on those young men. Affirmative action, of course, has been around for
Exactly. It screwed over, yes, it screwed over a generation of white men. Yep.
decades, and anyone who's worked at a major institution in America, whether government, corporate, or academic, has seen its effects. When I was applying for law, professor,
And the decline in quality across all these companies, like Bud Light's idiotic decision that saw the lost its place as America's beer, to video game companies, to movies that suck, it has decimated the U.S. economy. If you, instead of merit, you start prioritizing something else, of course, quality goes down everywhere.
jobs years ago, I was well aware that minority or female candidates were likely to get more interviews and more job offers than traditional candidates like me. But the degree of discrimination then was comparatively minor, a question of a thumb on the scale. Sometime around 2014, the thumb turned into a brick. That became undeniable last week when Compact Magazine published The Lost Generation, a detailed expose of DEI's impact by Jacob Savage, a writer who suffered it directly. Quote,
I definitely was aware of it. That's why one reason I absolutely hate people pushing DEI is they've directly negatively impacted me. So fuck them.
the doors seemed to close everywhere and all at once. In 2011, white men were 48% of lower-level TV writers. By 2000,
Yeah, that's proportional to their representation in the workforce.
24. Listen, folks. 48% of lower-level TV writers in 2011, slightly above the percentage of white men in society at the time, but by 2024,
Slightly above the amount of white men in society, maybe. I don't. If you're judging new arrivals, like you'd have someone just walk into the United States, they shouldn't really be included in the surveys for determining representation in the workforce. Because anyone who's just arrived to the country, it's just like you walk into DMV, you go to the back of the line. You shouldn't expect to get be represented everywhere in the job market if your group has only just arrived in the country.
they accounted for just 11.9%. It's a 36% decrease. The Atlantic's editorial staff went from 53% male and 89% white in 2013, which is overrepresented for sure, to 36% male and 66% white in 2024, and so on. Savager counts in one prestige industry after another. Crucially, the burden of diversifying the American workplace didn't fall on all white men. Boomers and Gen X executives, hey, Bob Iger, we're looking at you. We're too senior to fire. Had friends in their various industries and had experience that few minority candidates could offer. It was new hires and junior employees looking to move up who were shut out. And shut out they were. Savage offers not only statistics, but compelling personal stories of white men in various fields whose careers were stifled by officially sanctioned discrimination.
Officially sanctioned racism. Call it what it is.
Folks, I highly recommend that you go read this article that just rips apart the DEI movement, which was nothing more than targeted removal of men, but also men of European descent, in not only the workplace, but in stories as well.
Fuck everyone behind this.
Guys, we watch this in media, we watch this in gaming, we watch this in journalism, and now what I fear is that we have lost a generation of guys who not only did we send home and say, you have no purpose here because of the way you were born, the color of your skin, etc., but we also stole away their heroes, their myths, their legends.
Yeah.
Lauren, this is one of my...
You destroyed our entertainment. The MCU, Star Wars, so many shows. Thank God for Japanese and now Chinese stuff that's coming in, because everything made in America is trash. You need to take all these DEI hires and just fire them, every one of them. Yes, a few of them might be good, but it's not worth, just fire them all, the easiest way.
My worries about things like Star Wars and Marvel. This is why we cover this. This is why the channel exists. Lauren, the loss of a character like Luke Skywalker is not only negative because, we didn't get to see how the story should have ended, but because we started removing these icons that guys look to as, how should you live out your life? And the original saga of Luke is very different than what we got in the end. And that is to say, meaninglessness, forfeiting
Luke throwing away his lightsaber.
Purpose, being, what should we say, a curmudgeon who lives alone in sorrow and that sort of thing. They stole away the stories, Lauren, as part of that decade of DEI. It's not just the jobs. They stole the purpose, the morals that a lot of guys were hanging on to. Your thoughts on it?
What they said was all of your dreams and aspirations are for naught. Anything that you attempt will fail, and other people who are better than you will have to clean up your mess. It's an attempt at demoralization, and it's ridiculous that we even have to have this conversation. Discrimination of any kind is discrimination. It's not anti-racism. It's not anti-discrimination.
It's discrimination. It should be merit-based. If you don't like who's being hired on a merit basis, then work at increasing the merits of the population you want to have more representative. Like, if women can't make the cut in certain industry for some reason, then do outreach, try to get better training to those women so that they can be competitive, but don't lower the standards.
Discrimination. It's discrimination. It's bad no matter who does it and who they do it towards. This is why we want to have a meritocracy. Where you get elevated to, what opportunities are available to you should be based on your effort and your ability to perform the job that's needed. And that
also, when you get a job, just because you're a DEI hire, you then are trapped into the role of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion because your job depends on it. You're now forced to prop up an ideology because it's responsible for your success. And that then gets pushed into all types of media, movies, games, everything else at the cost of actual quality.
Those are the only factors that should apply. I'm hoping that we as a society are relearning that lesson, because if not, we're going to be in such a dangerous situation that we may not be able to recover. And part of that is because by preventing people from moving up in an organization, by hollowing out the middle, by not allowing people to gain experience, to gain the skills necessary to move up, eventually the people that are at the top who are making these decisions, they eventually die out, they go away, and without somebody in a middle position, you're left with a bunch of unskilled people. And that's when systems begin to collapse. And that's...
Notice that right now, Russia is outproducing the entire NATO West in terms of our munitions, shells, missiles, practically everything. They don't have DEI, and that's what they're accomplishing. It'll bring us to collapse if it isn't reversed.
It's a real danger. We may be in a position now where we're living in a society that we can't maintain. That's the impact of having an entire generation of people unable to find, retain, or advance in jobs. And I think there's going to be an even bigger impact when you factor in what happened during the...
And this DI encouraged immigration because it was just telling you arrive in the country, you'll be given preferential treatment over the natives who have lived there here hundreds of years. You can cut in line. So it's a pull factor. And it's one reason that there's such a backlash towards immigration. Native population of the United States, seeing them cutting in line, seeing them come into the country illegally and then ending up as superintendent of a school. It's, oh my God, does it create rage?
The COVID years when there was a lack of education as well. So there's more hard times ahead, I'm afraid.
You know, it's a fascinating thing to think about, you know, like if my wife thinks that I should take out the trash more often, and so I take out the trash, and I've done the trash more often.
When Disney Star Wars does make women Jedi, they'd never look like this. This is actually an attractive woman. It's AI.
Often, and so I take out the trash, and I've done the quote-unquote good thing here. If I talk about how great
Did DEI destroy an entire generation? Yes.
I am, that I took out the trash every single time that I do it, it never becomes the thing that I should do. It's the thing that I'm looking for praise for. So DEI is an end unto itself, as opposed to something that actually helps an organization. It is something that even if they needed to have more representation, if that was actually the case,
diversity adds nothing, absolutely nothing in of itself. If you have two people that have the exact same values and everything else, and one of those blacks, one of them's white, hanging one over the other does nothing.
This whole thing is based around the idea of everyone patting themselves.
Especially when you're coming to like creating fantasy world, like something like Zootopia. Do you think it matters the race of the person working on Zootopia?
It's on the back for having done it. And so it becomes very hollow and only increases a focus on race. So I think as they go through these motions, they get very, very hollow and very silly, to the point where in the recycling movement, when they started having not just a recycling bin, but also 4 different kinds of recycling bins, that, you know, the plastics in this one, the metals in this one, the...
Oh, come on. You know nothing. In Brussels, I just used to live there. I visited her. They have 10 different bins. You go to the recycling area and you have to bring all your bottles there. Your different type of glass goes there, and this type of can goes there, and this plastic goes here, and this other plastic goes. 10 different things. Recycling is insane in Europe.
Aerated, the aerated ceramics in this one, and whatever it is, it just becomes very hollow and very silly, and it just is a self-perpetuating cycle of waste.
Jonas, this is how we've arrived at the point where in the latest Avatar movie, the film depicts every single bad guy as a white person with an American, mostly Texan accent.
Yeah, it's intentional. Fuck them. And fuck Avatar because of that.
Every single bad guy. And Critical Drinker nailed this. That, what Critical Drinker said that I loved was, you might not have noticed it, but your brain did. The question is, how many kids have been noticing this for a decade? And how many?
Yeah, you just keep on telling a kid you're evil because you're white. I mean, that's what they did during slavery. They told people you're evil because you're black, and it's good you're a slave. Because you're lesser because you're black. That's what they're doing today. You're evil because you're white. You're lesser because you're white. Your villains in movies now are all white because that you're like them. You're evil because of your skin color.
How many people have we told you don't matter? And that takes away their desire to shoot for the stars and to be the best version of
It kills dreams.
themselves, because society kept telling them over and over again, based on the way you were born, you're an oppressor. It doesn't matter your character. You land in the oppressor tribe, and you must seek to find forgiveness for the sins of your supposed ancestors. I think this has been very damaging, and it's time to change the script. It's time to dignify people of all backgrounds, Ron.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really difficult to do what you just said for one major reason that I don't even think we've gotten into yet, and that is the toxicity in the workplace because of these policies.
Just like I said, once people are hired because of DEI, they have to enforce DEI. And unless you fire all of the people that were hired because of DEI, they're going to fight and they're going to be toxic towards any efforts to reverse it. If you've done DEI for years and it's too deep, it's better just start a new company and just let that one fail. That's what I think is going to happen in a lot of cases. It's a rot that cannot be salvaged. It's like all these game studios, you have to let them fail. And let new studios, studio that did Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, let them replace like Ubisoft. That is the future. Studios that aren't infected by this diversity, toxic nonsense.
And what I mean by that is I experienced it myself working for a place that absolutely had so many DEI policies. They actually put it into one of their work keys and called it inclusion, which was...
People in Hollywood are marking gay, like writers and actors, when they're applying for jobs, even if they're straight, because they know they'll never get a job otherwise. I mean, past it used to be you stayed in the closet if you were gay because you didn't want to get fired or because you were scared of other ramifications. Now we're at the point where straight people have to pretend to be gay to get work.
The exact opposite. It is that people who come in under these policies and they know that they have, right? They understand.
Thanks for following
that aspect
Mark
about
J.
who they are, help them get a job that they might not have been worthy of getting otherwise, means that they have a certain power over their fellow employees. Means that while they know that they can get away with saying certain things or making certain gestures or telling certain jokes, that their fellow employees, depending on what they look like or were born into, may not be able to do the same thing.
Ron, let me share a story real quick, Ron, because I know your story. The audience doesn't. But amazingly, I have another friend who worked his way up very high in a company and was extremely well respected. Well, it turns out he got onto some employees below him that were not acting properly. He had no idea, and he is a white male. He did not realize these two women had secretly formed a workplace romance. Two lesbian women. And they claimed that they were being discriminated against, despite the fact he had no idea they were having this affair. They claimed that he was discriminating against them because they were two lesbian.
Yes, and once they become in the system and they're DEI hire, then it becomes a game. The game of, oh, I've been discriminated against, and everyone who's white, straight, who's normal and not a press group becomes a target to accuse of something, of discrimination or whatever. Like that, you can remove them and get their job because it's nearly the established practice right now in a lot of these industries in Hollywood.
And women. And guess what?
Also, it might not even be nefarious. Colleges teach them to see microaggressions everywhere. So these two lesbians might have honestly convinced themselves that he was discriminating against them, despite him having no idea that they were even a lesbian.
That was the end of his career at that company.
Yeah.
That's the landscape we've been living in. And at the same time, Ron, people like Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, his pay went up if they met the.
Bob Iger should be jailed and everything he has confiscated. I hate it, absolutely hate it, when the executive of a company gets paid millions, if not billions, to run a company into the ground. And no one has done that more than Bob Iger at Disney.
Quotas. The white dude at the top got more money if they met the quotas for the race and bedroom issues.
Yes, and then they do it so that your bonuses are tied to discrimination. And if you want to get your Christmas bonus and get presents for your kids, you have to screw over and discriminate against white people.
That's the irony of the whole thing. And if you can look at the leadership in most of these companies, and it's a white dude, it's a straight male white dude. Like it's very, very ironic. You know, it's a very, very similar argument against socialism. Is that eventually with socialism, the idea is, oh, everybody gets a fair shake, right? Everybody gets a fair shot. But guess what? Somebody at the top has to control that, and there's
someone gets a fair shot and everyone else.
No way that person at the top isn't going to let that power not corrupt them, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what we're seeing with these policies. You know, a very, very simple policy should be, hey, everybody gets hired based upon what they can bring to the job, and that's it. But we're living in a society where
communism only works like on the level of a village, where everyone has lived together forever and is on the same page, and you don't really need a central authority to figure out everything, so you don't run into this problem. Anything bigger than a village, communism just does not work.
Somebody's telling somebody else, hey, if you don't have this quota to meet, and you're, it doesn't look like. I can tell you, SeaWorld, right? SeaWorld, I went to see their A Wondrous Night show, which is a presentation of the Christmas story, and it's great. Incredibly diverse cast, right? Although talented. Every single one of them brought it to the show. There were some white males in the show too. Like it was across the board. That's fine. That's look, if it happens that way and everybody comes in and they're diverse, but organically or naturally, and they all bring their talents to the job, great. But you can't hire just based on that, where people come.
Some places, some towns, just everyone's white, because that's historically how it's been. The idea that you need to bring people from out of town to fill jobs because of diversity, or like in countries like Iceland, you don't need to bring people from out of countries just for the sake of diversity. It's insane.
Coming into the job, know that because they are of a certain background, they have an advantage regardless of their talents, their merits, their skills. It's just a bad idea for everyone. And again, I don't know how long.
Besides, diversity, true diversity, is diverse, and some places are very diverse, some places have no diversity. That's true diversity.
How long it will take to heal, because so much of this has now been entrenched over the last decade.
It's going to take another decade to ask if we get our act right. Folks, get over to the New York Post and read this. Lauren, I'm going to give the final word on it. My thought, and you bounce off this, see what you think about it. My thought is that one of the ways we went so wrong from people who have malice, I believe, towards other people, is that we left the axiomatic value, the idea that we should build each other up, but not at the expense of tearing others down. And we decided to abandon that as a society.
We did two things. Empathy was weaponized and fear was leveraged. And those two things led every corporation on earth to fear lawsuits, which meant that they immediately amended their policies to make sure that they weren't targeted. And that led to pushing down of ideology, whether you liked it or not, all the way down to everybody. And that was a incredibly dangerous thing that we're going to feel the fallout for, I think, quite some time.
Yeah, an entire generation of white and men was discriminated against, never had career opportunities, and the statistics they were mentioning at the beginning were insane. Like going from 60% of workforce to like 10% of the workforce for new hires in terms of white and male.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of another video of...
Well, okay. That'll be my time to dip out. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.